If, as a private security professional, Kenya is not on your global roadmap, then, my friend, you are missing out. With rapid urbanization and economic growth, the need for private security in Kenya is only going to grow. So, if you are interested in knowing more about the nuances of the private security industry in Kenya, then this episode of the Security Talk Show by 360 PSA is just for you. In this episode, I had the pleasure of hosting Mr. Cyprian Musania and Mr. John Okumu, both of whom are private security professionals from Kenya. Mr. Cyprian comes with over 2 decades of rich experience in both private security as well as law enforcement in Kenya. And his mission is to protect lives, stop break ins, and safeguard assets and reputation. While Mr. John comes with a background in criminology and specializes in helping organizations identify vulnerabilities, design effective security systems, and build proactive safety cultures. So, if you are ready for this insightful conversation, then let's jump right into it.
All right, Cyprian and John, thanks a lot for joining us directly from Kenya. And my question for you is that, what do you think is the top opportunity and the top challenge facing the Kenyan private security industry?
Thank you very much, Manan from Delhi. It's my first time also to talk directly to Delhi, and I'm impressed that you saw it well or good to include us in this discussion. Let me start by saying that in Kenya we have around 2,000 security companies, and only around 800 are registered. Around 800, and it has employed around between 400 to 500,000 Kenyans. And as you have said, your question, the top opportunities are there because of the technology. There is need, which is still not very much embraced. There's need for integrating technology with just mere guarding, because currently people look just for guarding. And when we include technology, integrating actually, because you find that technology and guarding is just scattered. Somebody is deploying CCTV, but do not integrate well with the guarding, so that somebody can also monitor or respond. Another opportunity I see is that there is demand for specialized services, like issues with risk assessment. Somehow was early, and people just deployed guards without doing risk assessment, knowing how to allocate resources. So I think that's another growth for opportunity for specialized security officers who can, first of all, ask for risk assessment, and then before deployment is done. That's another opportunity, according to me. And another opportunity will be brought by PSRA, that's a Private Security Regulatory Authority. And the rules that are put in place is meant to increase the quality. And then when quality is there, automatically it means that people also get good services that they want. Of course, it's about protection of property. And if as time goes by, even though right now the ability to manage security companies is not to the full capacity, but I do see the effort to ensure that security companies are registered and they follow all the rules that are there. So before John maybe comes in, if I would say one or two challenges that are obvious actually, is that you'll find that less than half registered, more than half are unregistered. And what does it do? It means that the ones that are not registered have got low pay, they're not well trained.
Yeah.
And this is another avenue for maybe exposing clients to problems. because when you don't pay somebody well, you don't train him well, obviously you expect that even that very person you brought as your secretary will collude with somebody, with the person who wanted to steal from you.
Correct.
And yeah, so that's another challenge that maybe clients are not aware of. Another challenge is that most companies, they don't want to register. They operate just under the radar and below the radar. And when you look at where they're operating, mostly in rural areas where PSRA cannot monitor properly, so they're taking that advantage, so that when they are doing their jobs, which is not to the standard, and also maybe perpetuating the problems that people are facing. And this also increases turnover. You find that somebody was working here this month or 2 months, then another time is employed in another place. There's no proper vetting that is done on these guards. You don't know whether you are employing somebody who stole from other place or a former criminal or something like that. So it is a problem. Another problem that I would attribute to that, which is making this to happen, is that clients themselves maybe doesn't know the quality. If clients had known the quality, it means that they would be able to say, we do not want this service, we want this one, because they know the quality. So most clients doesn't know the quality, and that makes them to just choose on any other security. So long as a security guard is in uniform, they feel they are guarded. But for somebody who can understand, that is not guarded. Yeah. Yes, John maybe can add something.
What I can add under under top opportunities, I can talk about massive employment and socio-economic impact. In massive employment and socio-economic impacts, you find that there has been increase in employment of security officers, because the world is growing and people are setting up businesses. So security officers are being employed so as to guard the business premises, so as to guard estates where people are living. Then another thing I would also like to add is under challenges. The challenges, which one challenge which I can add is that there's poor connection between the private security companies and the police, that's the law enforcement. We find that at times an incident might have happened in near where is guarded by a private security company, and this incident require to be reported to the police, because there are some incidents that private security company will only handle at lower level, but the incidences should be reported to the higher authority, that is the law enforcement. And when there is a poor connection between private security companies and law enforcement, we find that if these problems are reported, the law enforcement doesn't take an action. So that's what I would like to add.
Very interesting points raised by both of you, Cyprian and John. Cyprian, so essentially what you described is kind of the similar problem set here in India as well, where the end client doesn't really know how to differentiate a private security agency based on the quality of security services being provided, which is why they don't want to pay them enough, which is why the private security agency cannot train their people enough, and which is why they are giving out low quality resources, and then this becomes a circle. And John, to your point, very interestingly raised that the lack of coordination and communication between the private security companies and law enforcement agencies is another big challenge, which definitely needs to be addressed. And given what you have said about, a massive opportunity for employment generation within the Kenyan private security industry, I do believe that it is again similar to what we have here in India. Right. So interesting points, both of you. So I would like to then, extrapolate our discussion, because we have discussed the current landscape of the Kenyan private security industry here, right? Now extrapolating that to what is going to happen in, let's say, the next 2 to 5 years. Do you see that there are any trends that are forming in the industry And Cyprian, you did touch upon the aspect of technology within the private security space in Kenya, right? So, what do you say? That is technology really a friend for private security players or an enemy?
Yeah, thank you very much, Manan. Technology is a friend because technology is meant to make our work easier, better, to augment, and also when it comes to, because security is about preventing crime, and also sometimes crime can occur. We also need to record what happened, actually for court purposes. So technology is very important, and if security can be integrated to technology, I think crime level will reduce more than 50%. Reason being that when a criminal knows that he's being monitored, that's a deterrence in itself.
Yeah.
And when that information is transmitted to a person who can take action immediately, and he knows that in case I do this, and information reaches authority, and authority will react or respond within 3 minutes, then that will make the person committing crime to look that if the opportunity is risky, then he'll let go that opportunity. Because criminals are opportunists. They look for an opportunity, and when they have the ability, they could have the desire to commit a crime, but the opportunity do not present itself. So they just walk away. So when technology is involved, it means that technology will also help to create statistics, and these statistics will help come up with trends, and these trends will inform the law enforcement or security deployment. And in the long run, it means that now, if we know that maybe in certain period of time, this is what we normally come across, or what kind of crimes are committed in such kind of time or particular time, what kind of resources do we deploy? And if we can include now the AI. I was looking at what's happening in China, maybe Singapore and other countries, where facial recognition is used. When you get in to maybe do shoplifting somewhere, and maybe your face is recognized there, that can also be shared by law enforcement authority. And wherever maybe you go, if you go somewhere, they discover you, then action is taken. If that can be included in our security setups, it is really going to help. But as we had said earlier, most of these security companies, they are not well trained. They are not. They do not meet standards of the regulatory authority, and they are only doing guarding. And also because most clients are also not aware of what they want, they think having a guard is enough. They do not demand for the best.
Yes.
If the clients can shift, because market responds according to maybe what the people want. If people can grow more aware and demand for a certain service, then that service will also grow. But if people, you could have that service, yes, but people do not want it. Even if you tell them, please go for this is the best now, how do you go about that?
Yes.
You will still remain with your technology, though it's supposed to help them, but they're not aware, they're not buying it.
Yeah.
So I think we need also to create awareness to the client so that they know what is best for them, so that they can demand what is good for them. Security professionals, I think, currently are training so well, and they are aware that we need to do risk-based security, whereby we don't just do security. First of all, we need to understand what is the problem. And if this is the problem, what resources do we deploy to handle this problem? And then also, what is the feedback are we getting from the technology that we have deployed, so that it can also inform us maybe to make some changes in our setup or security posture. So that link between the client, between now the security companies that are doing the training, and the services now we are offering. If PSRA can be able to weed out the bad guys, the guys who are operating without licenses, I think we can make a step. But the problem is now there is market for them. Market for them means these people want cheap services and they are ready to pay for it.
Yeah.
If you tell them, please go for this one, they don't want. So that's a challenge. But still, I see people are more aware. The current generation is more aware than generation that is now behind us. And they know that the best for them is quality. And also the internet, I think, is also spreading that information. And I would say that issues to do with the criminal acts are also being aided by technology. And if they're being aided by technology, we should also use the same technology to prevent the same. Yeah, because I remember in some areas we have criminals who are using drones.
Hmm.
And if criminals are using drones, like in South Africa, actually, they're using drones to scan the area, understand the security setup before they send their team there. It is now coming at a time when even us, we have to upgrade. Instead of just preventing what is coming on the ground, we also need to understand what is flying above us. And that calls for technology. You cannot do that without technology.
Very well said, Cyprian. Very well said. Yeah. So criminals are
So,
opportunists, right? A great statement
yes.
to make, which is why now criminals or threat actors are now leveraging technology to help them with their cause. So it becomes absolutely essential for even private security players to first understand technology and then use it to their benefit, right? For countering such threats. And of course, threats are not 2D anymore. They are 3D. They are there in the sky as well, with drones now in the picture. So very well said. And you did mention that the current generation is much more aware than the one which is behind us. So I guess John is from the current generation very much, right? So John, your views on this?
What I'm seeing happening in private security in relation related to Kenya is that in 2 to 5 years in Kenya, maybe we can experience professionalism and standardization. Maybe here in Kenya, right now, we have some unregistered security companies, but the Private Security Regulation Authority is really working to ensure that all the security companies are registered and licensed. So if all the security companies, maybe within 2 to 5 years, they will be registered, you find that the idea of training, licensing and training will be on top notch. In 2 to 5 years in Kenya, there will be a wage reform.
Okay.
A wage reform in that right now the guards are I can say they are being paid between 15 to 30,000, and that is low. That is very low according to the Private Security Regulation Authority. So the Private Security Regulation Authority is working hard to ensure that the guard salary are raised, to ensure that their needs are met. I can also talk about the idea of digital transformation. In Kenya, we are trying to integrate the idea of technology and AI. The idea of technology and AI, for example, the use of the smart access control. The smart access control, the idea of biometrics. We are introducing the idea of biometrics because we find that the models of operandi or methods of operation of these criminals are changing. So if we integrate technology, we will ensure that we deter these criminals from stealing from us.
So again, great points, John and Cyprian. So essentially, one thing is extremely clear, right? That going forward, let's say 2 to 5 years down the line, technology is going to become a much more integral part of private security, both in terms of the threat landscape, because both of you alluded to this point that the threat landscape is evolving, and the threat actors are now using technology. So even the security providers will now have to integrate technology deeper so that they are able to give that adequate response to the evolving and emerging threat landscape. So that's pretty clear. Now, in context of this, who do you think would be the ideal security professional for the future? right? What do you think are the hard skills that they must have? What do you think are the soft skills they must have? And what is the kind of personality that one should have to be really called an ideal security professional?
Maybe let's start with soft skills. Soft skills are required everywhere, not only for security, and that begins with communication, because a security person must communicate.
Mhm.
You must have ability to communicate to people well and clearly. The information must not be ambiguous, because security things should be well defined. If you communicate something that is not well defined, that means when somebody takes action on something, it can be a problem in terms of the results. We also have emotional intelligence that a security person must have. Yeah, we have emotion problems. Everybody has emotion problems. But when you're a security person, you are on duty, you must be present, and you must also understand the person you're dealing with. So every security officer must ensure that they know how to manage situations, they know how to manage their emotions and the emotions of the clients or customer. It could be in a mall, or maybe a meeting is convened somewhere, let's say concert where people are drunk. You're meeting drunkards there.
Yep.
A drunkard can tell you anything. He can even abuse you. Yeah. And you know how to handle such a person. You will also not have verbal attack on him simply because maybe he called you certain name that you don't like. So as a security person, you must be calm, you must be present, and you must also think ahead. Whatever action you are taking now, what is the result maybe when you make 2 3 moves ahead, because you don't just think on the next move only.
Yeah.
There could be first move can bring another problem maybe forward, but if you make one move, it will bring this problem down when there are 2 moves made. So you have to calculate as a security person. And then on soft skills, I would also talk about being observant. You know, you must know the pattern of things. This was not like this. Why is it like this? Could be this person today is so angry. Why is this person so angry? Try to find out. So be observant, be present, so that you follow up on what pattern changes, and whatever action you're supposed to take. Now, when we get to hard skills, actually, hard skills are important, actually, to each and every person. I remember, as I don't know whether I told you that last time, but long time ago in Africa, almost every man was using, you had to walk with a club or a stick, you had to walk with a spear, you had to use some kind of protective gear.
Yeah.
I think this was part of the hard skills, and you were to be trained on how to tackle an enemy. That too is important for all security guys, because you can find yourself in a situation whereby you either have to defend yourself,
Yeah.
or else you can be killed. Things like first aid, emergency situations, some skills on maybe operating things like CCTV. They're also very important for a security guy to have, so that you can be all round instead of just sitting there guarding and you are doing nothing. And also report writing. As a security officer, you must know how to write a report. Incident. When an incident happens, you should know how to do it properly, clearly, and send it immediately. These are skills that are very important, and you find that most security guards do not have those skills. So long as he's been put in a uniform, he's been given some, we call it rungu here. It's a club, a small, short, we call it rungu. You've been
Okay.
given a rungu, you are just on duty. When an incident happens, you are just like any other person. Yeah, you don't even ask then, what do we do here? so, so I think that also comes with what is called SOPs, operating procedures. And those procedures sometimes when the security companies are the small ones that are registered, they don't care about the SOPs. And SOPs are very important here. The SOPs also will come with training.
Correct.
Yeah. So you talked about mindset. First of all, you should recognize yourself as a security guy. If you don't recognize yourself as a security guy, it means you'll be like just like any other. And your work, you should also understand what's your work. Whom are you trying to work against, and what are his tactics? You must also know. If you don't understand your enemy, then there's no way you can beat your enemy.
Correct.
A little bit of risk. You must also understand a little bit of risk assessment, because you can get to an environment. You find that you are deployed somewhere. You don't know that maybe you are next to a slum. If the facility is next to a slum, here most likely I can get the bad characters coming. And if the bad characters can come here, should we allow our clients just to leave their vehicles with some maybe laptops in them exposed? You should be able, here you can advise them as a security officer or a guard. Here we don't allow you to just leave open your laptops or some very important items exposed. So you are assessing an area. You're also advising the clients that come around there, and being friendly. Communication again comes in. Yes. So I think these are things that, if possible, security companies are supposed to encourage continuous training, continuous coaching, so that human beings, even in Bible, as a Christian, there's a place written that you should always remind them, even though they know, but just remind them. That's why people go to church every Sunday. They know sin is bad, but they're still going to church. They're being told sin is bad. Not that they don't know.
Great, Cyprian. And I think if I have to pick, because all that you mentioned are extremely important things to have, or rather must has for a security professional. But I have to pick, if I have to pick one of these, right, I will actually put my focus on the mindset bit that you mentioned, right? Because first and foremost, a security professional has to start thinking and feeling like a security professional. Otherwise, as you said, right, you are just like any other person, right? So first you have to create that differentiation for yourself in your own mind, and then actually translate it into the physical realm by training yourself, both mentally, physically, and even emotionally, right? And that is when you really metamorphosize into a true blue security professional, right? Otherwise you are just somebody with a uniform and that small club that you just mentioned, right? So that definitely is extremely important. So, Cyprian, we have spoken a lot about what the current private security landscape looks like in Kenya. What are the projections for, let's say, 2 to 5 years down the line, and then what will it take for somebody to actually call themselves a true blue security professional, right? So, in that context, what will it take, Cyprian, to create a global private security services provider outside of Kenya? What would be the compliance requirements that they'll have to adhere to? Then what are the clients that they can expect? And then what should be their strategy around attracting the good quality, the right quality clients?
Actually, we have in place PSRA Act states clearly the process, because first of all you have to register a company. You register a company. After registering a company, we have classes. You can register a company just for guarding. You have to specify when you're looking for the license. You can register a company for cash in transit. You can register a company for also have patrols. You have a control room. And we have K9. You can register a company for under security, also just for investigations and consultation. You can also register a company for armed protection. I think that also executive protection also falls in that. So it will depend under which category do you want to operate? Do you want to operate on all these categories, or you just want guarding? So if you are just guarding, then you just deploy you do your training, and training standards are also set by PSRA Act. You have to meet the training, the standards. You have to kit them. They must have a uniform. You must create the SOPs that manage your guards. And then inspection is done by PSRA, whether you meet the standards or not. They have also set the minimum salary. I think it's 30,000, and mostly people don't follow that. Most companies, so that when you employ somebody, you train them, then this is the minimum you can pay them a month. But given that many companies cut corners, sometimes that is not effected fully. After you are set up and you have, because you must have a physical address, actually, as per the company. And you must also have a training ground. And then from there, somebody can apply to get a contract with maybe an institution. Like in Kenya here, we have many international organizations, actually, that consume services, security services from Kenya. Like even UN, I think is using World currently. We have a US embassy, also have embassies also that use our security, even though World is international, but we also have locally constituted companies that are also locally incorporated and managed, that has contracts with international bodies. So if maybe a client wants a security company that has all the classes, it is now upon them to decide that I want this company because it has all the classes. It has the class A for guarding, it has the patrol cars, it has the alarms, it has the control room, it has executive protection, and it has investigations. So that in case of an incident, the same company will carry out all these things. Instead of maybe have a guard, after guarding, there's a problem that comes, I have again to look for another service elsewhere. So it will depend on the type of client, maybe whatever services that they want. But this should always happen that every year, PSRA is supposed to do vetting before licensing, and they are supposed to review and monitor yearly. Licenses are supposed to be renewed. And the purpose of renewing licenses is just to ensure that you're operating within the law.
Yeah.
So actually, the companies that provide quality services, I think they meet the international standards. If you look at BM, we have BM, I think that's locally incorporated. It is at par with G4S, which is, I think, it's international. We have World, which is KK company, that is international. They are at par because, like BM, World, they have all the services that a security company is supposed to provide.
So you've answered it perfectly, Cyprian. And what you said really makes a lot of sense, right? Because first and foremost is, of course, getting your compliance right.
Yes.
Once, and since PSRA is there doing their work diligently, so it's only in the benefit of any new private security company who's coming into the market to actually comply with the rules and regulations put out by the PSRA. And then having done that, they can then decide as per their own business strategy that where do they want to play, or where do they really want to start with. It could be man guarding, could be security patrols, could be executive protection, could be investigations, as you mentioned, right? So these are definitely areas that you see could be starting points for a new private security company who is now entering the Kenyan private security market, right? So I think that really helps. And I genuinely hope that there are more and more people who have the right intentions in mind, who have the right mindset, enter the industry so that the industry can also benefit from this expertise of theirs, right? So we have spoken a lot, Cyprian, about the professional stuff with regards to private security industry in Kenya. But we would now like to know a little bit more about your journey, Cyprian. What got you
Mhm.
into the private security industry, and what is your motivation which keeps you going still?
Yeah, thank you very much. Having gained a lot of experience in law enforcement, I felt I should also contribute to the private security to make it better.
Mhm.
Yeah, because there is enough when you have gone through law enforcement, you go through many, you work in many areas, many environments, different situations. And so that wealth of experience, when I share it with the private security, it will improve the standards,
Yeah.
actually. And and especially in areas to do with the risk assessment and writing of reports. Yeah, actually, report writing is very poor in private security.
Hmm.
A lot is not captured. Yeah, a lot is not captured, and I felt I can help a lot when I get into this. That was a growth opportunity, and as I told you earlier, actually, where there is need, where there is demand, and you have that knowledge, when you provide it, I think if you feel there's that consumption, you just feel then you are needed. If you feel
Yeah.
you are needed, then you just continue. So I felt after maybe private guys used to call me every now and then, help me with this. How do you go about this one? How? But then I say, okay, then there's a gap somewhere here,
Yeah.
which I can explore. Yeah.
Very interesting, Cyprian. And
So
I think, that's really inspirational because you were part of the law enforcement setup, which got you to experience security as a use case up close, right? And with that experience, you could see that there are still gaps that the private players are not able to fill by themselves. And that
yeah.
is where you want to create value. We wish you the best. And that
Yes.
makes
Thank
it
you.
the perfect note for us to wrap up this conversation with. Thanks a lot,
Mm.
Cyprian, for your time and insights.
Thank you so much for watching this episode till the end. I learned a lot from both my guests, and I hope so did you. We at 360 PSA are here to transform the private security industry globally. So, if the work that we do makes sense to you, then do check out the other videos on this YouTube channel and don't forget to subscribe.